Good afternoon, everybody. What is going on? I am jeffgrantMEDIA, and today we're going to treat my Unmarked DB Hunter boots. Now, as I said in my review, it's a little early for me to be treating these boots. I generally wait till the end of winter, and it's really hard to see on the camera, but we are getting quite a bit of white on the toes of each of the boots. It's from the rocksalt. It's winter. It's about a week and a half after I filmed the review video, and we've had a snowstorm and some really cold weather with some ice, so there's been more rock salt on these since then. So I'm gonna go ahead and treat these now. It's actually snowing again outside, but I want to treat these before I let them get a little bit too far gone and becomes incredibly noticeable, because I think if you could see this through the camera, I waited too long. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna untie these boots. We're going to pull the laces off, and we'll do one boot on camera so you can see how I do it, and we'll let that dry and everything, and then we'll come back and see the difference between the treated boot and the untreated boot, so you can kind of get an idea of what these will look like before and after. And again, I'm probably 2 months, maybe a little over 2 months of wear into these boots. It is the end of January here, and we are finally hitting our snowy season. So we will definitely see some more snow and rock salt in our future, but I fear if I wait too long, I might actually put some damage on these boots. Where right now, where I'm at, even though it's not terribly noticeable, it is starting to, the rock salt is starting to dry out the leather. So we're gonna start by taking care of them now. And we have our horsehide brush. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna knock everything off these boots. And I will say, I did not wear these today because it's the weekend and I haven't actually done anything today. We did leave the house to go grocery shopping, but I threw on my Kyrgyz slippers, and I just wore those when I went to the grocery store. So I didn't actually wear boots today. It was before it started snowing. It did start snowing after we got back. So I didn't wear boots. Had it been snowing when we left, I most certainly would have wore boots, but it was not snowing when we left. So I was going for the comfort as opposed to style points. But these aren't that bad. And you can see some of the crocking on here from my jeans and just dirt from wear, but it's really not that bad. I don't have a ton of wear on the tongue. You can see some of these darker points that I showed you in the original video, but you can see them a little bit better now that the laces are off. But I mean, all in all, a little bit of darkening here on the tongue, but really it's they're still in great shape. So what we're gonna use is this Chisos Leather Balm. I've only used this once or twice before, but I really like it. It was very easy to apply. It came out really well. I use it on my Double H boots up there, and they were very light, and it basically brought them back to the way they looked when they were new. That's the color they were when they were new. Now, I did do a test on these. I think I did it on the left boot, actually, and there's where I did my test spot. You can't really see anything at all. I don't notice any difference between the leather. I kind of just did it in a little crease here because I knew it would be hidden by the boot. So if it did darken and I was gonna have a dark spot here for a period of time, it would be covered by the boot until I treated the rest of it. And it looks fine. I don't see any difference at all. But I think if I do it on a larger scale where I do an entire boot, it might be a little bit more noticeable where I just did a little dab on my finger. So I will probably go a little bit heavier because I will be coating the entire boot as opposed to a tiny spot. But I did test them last week and I had very good results. So here we go. We'll just use a little dab at a time here. Last time I was only using from the lid, but I just use my bare hands. If you don't want to use your hands, you could simply just put on a pair of gloves. I would be careful though. A nitrile glove could potentially react to the leather if you use something like that. So I like to just use my bare hand. I mean, I'm not afraid. This isn't gonna do anything to my hands, my skin at all. So I just usually put a little dab on my finger and I just kind of massage it in. And this does have a nice consistency to it. It's not very thick. It's not like using like a snow seal that's kind of like that's a beeswax, and it's much heavier and thicker where you have to heat it up to get it into the boot. This is all at room temperature. I didn't heat anything up. I can easily just apply and rub this into the boots, no problem. Now I wanna make sure I get these seams really good. A little at a time, just take it easy, do a little little bit at a time. You can't really overdo it, I guess, especially if the boot's dry from rock salt, but I try to just do it a little at a time. Now, the one thing I want to be careful with and make sure is that I actually get down by the welt of the boot. And so I'm really kind of working this seam, making sure I get it all the way in there, all the way around 360 degrees. But while I'm doing that, I'm also just kind of rubbing it in, working it in. I don't want to leave any big globs on the leather. Now, I'm mostly using one finger. I will use 2 fingers as well, but I feel like I have a little bit more control. Seriously, just using a singular finger and just rubbing it in. I want to make sure I get that worked into the leather. And the friction, the little bit of friction that I'm getting while I'm rubbing it in is helping to work it into the leather a little bit better. So it doesn't need to be warmed because it does have a good consistency, but the little bit of friction that I am creating with my fingers as I'm massaging this into the leather is kind of helping to get it really in there all the way. And yeah, this is the only spot where it kind of becomes a bit of an issue because the eyelets, it just makes it hard. Mostly the speed laces. The eyelets aren't that bad. I just go right over the eyelets, but the speed laces, to make sure I get on both sides and all the way around it, it is a little bit more of work, but it's not hard at all. This is a very easy, simple task to do. This is something that I feel like people are afraid to condition their boots because they think they're gonna ruin their boots, but really not conditioning your boots could be the thing that ruins your boots. So you wanna make sure you take care of these things, especially something that you wear quite a bit and you really like, because I do really like these boots. I really like this colorway. I love this natural veg tan, and it's starting to age and show all these signs of wear. There's probably a little bit more crocking on here than was in the review that we filmed a week and a half ago, but it's coming out, they're coming out really good, and they do look a little bit darker right now, but this is still wet. It does have to dry. It's gonna take, a little while. I think they usually say 10 or 15 minutes, but I'll usually let them sit there for about an hour. And then once this dries, we'll compare it to the unconditioned one to see really if it darkened at all. But we gotta finish. We're only about halfway there. So we'll just keep going, work our way all the way around the boot, make sure we get all these seams, making sure we get down by the welt. We'll make sure we get the tongue as well when we're done. Miss Hazel Fantastic has joined us. You might hear her in the background here.
I just put on my onesie.
Oh, she put her onesie all the way on. We're having a nice lazy day here because it's snowing outside. So we did our grocery shopping and we've kind of just been lazing around the house.
Yeah, but we also have to shovel.
We're going to have to shovel, yep.
When the snow stops.
When the snow, well, we might have to shovel before it stops, kid. You don't know.
But then we'll have to shovel twice.
That's okay. It's more exercise. Yeah. We won't, however, be wearing our freshly conditioned Unmarked DB Hunter boots when we're shoveling. We'll probably throw on a pair of duck boots. For me, anyway. You got your own boots.
Can I put on my duck boots?
You don't have duck boots. You got snow boots, but they're not duck boots.
Yeah, but I call them a duck boot. Okay,
well, you can wear your quote-unquote duck boots if that's what you want, because that's what I was going to put on you anyway to make sure your feet stay dry and warm.
Are you going to put on your snow boots?
Yeah. Yeah, my snow boots are downstairs by the door because I need them when it's snowing. So I keep them downstairs right by the door at the ready. Okay, now we're almost done with the welt here. I think I've come almost 365. Got a lot of the tongue or the toe already, so we're gonna work our way up the tongue. And the inside here, I wanna make sure I get the gusset too on both sides of the tongue, because we gotta take care of that as well. So we'll start there and then just work our way across. This is the awkward part where I gotta try to do this standing up, hold the boot on camera, and make sure I get everything all at the same time. This is the fun part of filming what you're doing.
Ooh, that's
you still wanna do it correctly, but you wanna make sure it's on camera. All right, so.
Dad, I'm gonna show them my picture.
Okay, you can show them your picture. We are almost done with these boots, so let me finish the tongue and then we can do that, baby.
I showed them the first part when I was almost finished to give them a little sneak peek.
Oh, well, everyone loves a little sneak peek. I'm not going to lie. I love a little sneak peek here and there.
I'll give you a sneak peek if you want it.
Okay. Just want to make sure I can see it's not all the way down in there. So make sure we get it in. And there we go. We got it on. We are done with our Chisos on our first boot. Now, I do have a rag where I will kind of go over and just kind of hit it. I'm not really polishing them right now. I just want to make sure all of the heavy spots There's no like big goopy spots sitting there. So I'm just hitting this very, very lightly because I did see 1 or 2 thicker spots that I just want to get that excess off. I don't want to take it off. I want it to absorb into the leather, but there's a few spots I saw where I went in a little heavy. Now, one thing you should do is you should still hit it with a horsehide brush afterwards, but this is the only big one I have. So I only have the big one that I use to clean them off. So this has dirt in it, and I don't want to put that dirt back into the freshly conditioned boots. So I have a big one and a little one I use for the smaller spots. But then I have this extra one that I don't really use. I didn't really use for anything. So this is the one that I will go back and hit the boot with when I'm done. I'll just kind of go back over, hit any of those high spots. This will help take any more of those spots that I didn't just whack off with the rag. And then you can polish them up. I will kind of put a little bit of elbow grease on with the rag when I'm done, but I don't really like a high shine boot, so I don't really polish them. I more or less just want to make sure I take any excess boot balm off before I like leave these boots sit for a while. So what we're gonna do is me and Miss Hazel Fantastic will probably go shovel. So I'll let this dry for a while and then we will compare, because right now, yeah, you can see this is the right boot is the conditioned boot, the left boot is unconditioned, and it is certainly darker, but this is still wet. Now, again, unlike my test where I did that little test sample, I only put a thin amount, a small amount on to see if it was gonna darken the leather, and it didn't. I did this on a much larger scale, and I certainly worked it into the leather better than I did on my little test spot. So I think we are gonna see a little bit of darkening. So while this will dry, and it will probably look a little bit lighter than it does right now, once it dries, I still think we're going to get a little bit darker than the natural veg tan, at least the way it looks now after it's been worn for a couple of months and it's covered in dirt. So I think we are gonna keep a little bit darker colorway, but not necessarily this dark. But before we walk away and let this dry, Hazel wants to show you her picture, so.
I gave them a little sneak peek
Here.
while you were talking. I did this.
Hop in. Get in the driver's seat, kid.
So, I planned on doing a full, but I tried doing it and it didn't turn out really good for the half set. And look, it's perfect.
Oh, that's great.
I worked on it in the hallway while I was waiting for my interview.
She wanted to wait for her interview patiently in the hallway.
It kind of like, when the light goes on, it shines better, like a golden, see? Like
Yeah.
golden spot.
You're seeing the reflection of this light. Or is it this one? No, it's this one. There's two lights in the room, and she's looking at the TV, not at the camera. That's what's filming. You're looking at yourself on the monitor.
So I kind of like, so I'll show you. If your son or daughter has one of these, then you know that this pops, that this goes, that this goes up, and then that go down, and then you plug the little hole, and then done.
Done.
That's how you do it. And guess what? There's a button for you to erase it. Look.
Hit the button. Oh, now it's gone, and she can
Black.
start all over again.
It's a saveable. The garbage is for like you to like save it, but you can't see it any longer.
Yeah.
Only if you do the full board again.
All right, let's go get to work, and we'll come back and check on these boots in probably about an hour or so. So it is several hours later, because as life has a habit of doing, it got in the way. My wife works about an hour away, and as I mentioned earlier, it was snowing outside. It's finally stopped, but it was a pretty bad storm, and it's really cold. So a lot of that turned to ice, and she slid off the road and got stuck. So I had to quickly cook some dinner, because I was in the middle of doing so, feed Miss Hazel Fantastic, drop her off at my mother-in-law's, and then go rescue my wife, whom at that point was unstuck. A kind man got her out of the ditch she was stuck in, but she was still afraid to drive all the way home. So we were going to leave her car and drive home in mine, but she just followed me very, very slowly, and that was about 4 hours ago. So I just got home, and I just cleaned off my own sidewalks, but here we are. I haven't knocked this down yet, but before I kind of hit any of the high spots or polish it up a little bit, you can see this is the treated boot, conditioned boot. This is the unconditioned boot, and they are pretty close. Yes, the conditioned boot is a little bit darker, but not much. So my little test that I did where I was pretty I went gingerly with the balm, it didn't darken it at all. But again, I was pretty light on it. And this is, I obviously went a little heavier because I want to make sure I got all of the seams and the welt and everything. And it looks good. And I'm looking at the toe where I saw that little bit of white. I can see it on the untreated boot. It's again, hard to see on the camera, but it is there. I can see it's kind of light and dry looking. You can even kind of feel it. If I feel the top of the toe and then I feel the front of the toe, it feels like scratchy, like dry skin, like the way my back of my hands feel. So the top of the toe feels much softer and more supple than the tip of the toe. It does feel a little dry. And if I feel the treated one, I mean, it's still a little sticky because again, I haven't knocked it down, but it feels conditioned and nice and it feels hydrated. But what we'll do is we'll take the brush that I did not use for the dirt, and we'll take a rag. And first, I'm gonna start with the rag. And really all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of just rub the boot. I'm not gonna like polish it at all, because again, I don't like a high shine boot, but I'm just gonna kind of rub it. And what I'm doing is any excess that's built up there, again, I did wait way too long. This should have been done much, much sooner, but there still might be some high points where it might have gooped up a little bit and there might be a little bit there. So what I'm doing is I'm just gonna go over all of the leather real quick, and I'm just gonna make sure there's none of those big, high, chunky, goopy spots on the leather. So we're just gonna wipe it down. You don't have to be, I mean, you could see, so I don't have to be like methodical with this. You could see with the eye if there are any high spots or goopy spots. And we're just gonna kind of go through it, just making sure. And if you want to get like a shine to this, you could polish this. It's not shoe polish, but because it is conditioned, it does have a bit more of a shine to it. And if you really put a little elbow grease into it, you will shine it up a little bit. Now again, it's not shoe polish. If you really want your boots to shine, you'll probably want to use some you'll want to use some shoe polish. But all I'm doing is knocking off any of those high points, any of the leather balm that's still kind of just on there, and just making it look all right. And I'll take my horsehide brush and I'll just kind of making sure I'm hitting all like the seams and everything, go through like the welt, but I'm just gonna kind of rub it. What I'm doing again is knocking any of those high points down, any of the goop that got on there, especially now that I left it on for longer than I should have, and it might be dried a little bit. And I'm just gonna kind of hit it real quick. I'll go back over this and make sure I do the welt really good. But I like to get like the eyelets, especially if you have speed laces, because as you saw when I was trying to apply the balm, trying to get in there are a little bit in the way, so I kind of just work on a little of those. You want to get the tongue, and then if there's a gusset in the tongue, you kind of want to pull that gusset back, get in there inside of the eyelets, because I also got those too. Other side, and really just kind of hit it up. And it doesn't take a lot. You're just kind of going over, and if there's any high points, any goops of the leather balm, you want to get that off there because you don't want like it chunky sitting on there. And honestly, that's about all I do. Yeah, I'm not even gonna go back over this after I turn the camera off. I think it looks good. So there it is, the conditioned treated boot. And there's the unconditioned non-treated boot. Again, these are only about 2.5 months old at this point, but now I think it did pretty good. You can see there is a slight color variance. This is the treated one, this is the non-treated one, this is the right, the left, and I think it looks good. It doesn't look that much darker, which is what I was going for. I didn't really want to darken them up. I just wanted to treat them so they weren't taking any abuse or wear that I didn't intend to do. Like the abuse would have been leaving that rock salt on there indefinitely, just letting it essentially eat up the boots. So now that's off of at least one boot. What I'm going to do now is late. So I'm going to turn this camera off. I'm going to finish up this boot, probably do a little R&R, because even though I felt fairly comfortable driving in this awful weather conditions, I was just driving for like 4 hours, so I'm tired and I'm stressed. So I'm gonna decompress, and I'm just gonna go to bed because I got work in the morning. So with that, I hope this helped a little bit. You can see what it looks like before and after you condition your Veg Tan DB Hunter boots from Unmarked. Still love these boots, still wearing them quite a bit. I will probably not wear these for the next day or two because it's crappy out, and I just took care of, well, just took care of one, about to take care of the other because of the crappy weather and the rock salt. So I don't want to immediately put more rock salt on these boots right after I treated them. So with that, if you like this video or any of my other videos, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Smash that bigger button and ring that bell right next to it so notifications the next time I post a brand new video. Good night.